What's good, Wizards fans? It's your host, the real Ed Oliver and Brandon Scott. Today, we're going to talk about should the Wizards have interest in Usman Garuba or Washington, and we're going to get to one hot take question. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Wizards, your daily Washington Wizards podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
So I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. All right, so Usman Garuba and Washington were just waived. They are free agents. They are available to be picked up or claimed off waivers. The Wizards don't have a lot of front court depth at all. It's Gafford, Mike Muscala, and if Gafford gets in any type of foul trouble, then Muscala is going to be your main big man or main center. So what are your thoughts on either one? Do you think the Wizards have any interest in picking up either one of these guys?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we were both big fans of Ty coming out of Kentucky. Kentucky guards, I'm a Kentucky guy, so I'm a little biased, just a little bit. But absolutely, we need a two-way spot we need somebody to take up that spot. So, one of these guys will definitely be the answer for that third two-way spot. Now, looking at Usman Garuba, he played power forward or center. And at the center position, he's a slightly undersized at 6'8", but he shows promise at the position. But he's got the weight to kind of bang around there with the centers at 230 pounds. But looking at his stat line real quick, 2 years in Houston, this previous season, he actually played in 75 games, started one, averaged around 13 minutes a game. Shot 48% from the field, 40 from three, but the sample size is a little small. Rebounds 4.1, and then points per game 3. So Aruba is an intriguing prospect coming out of, he played in the Spanish league for a little bit. Like I said, a little undersized, but then if you look at players like Isaiah Stewart at Detroit, he's around 6'8", 6'9", and he's shown that he can play center. So maybe you take a flyer on him. Looking at Ty. Like I said, I was a big fan of Ty. Coming out of the draft out of Kentucky. And he only played 1 year, drafted by Houston, averaged around 4.7 points a game, 1.5 assists, and he played around 14 minutes a game, played 31 games, and started 2. So the sample size is a little small, but, if I had to choose between the two, I guess I would roll with Ty. Definitely I would give him minutes at the Capital City Go-Go because right now our backcourt, the point guard position is overabundance right now. If you look at Rollins, you look at DeLon Wright, we're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with the depth at point guard. So I think he would definitely have to get minutes at Capital City Go-Go. But I think either one of them really, if you have a chance, depending on the roster makeup, we need depth to center, like you said, behind Gaff, Muscala. There's no Vucevic this year because he's staying in Europe. So I would not have a problem with signing either one. I think that we definitely need to look at depth at the front court position, but Ty is intriguing, especially after the deadline. When you loosen up some minutes, depending on they move DeLon Wright, depending what they do with Rollins, maybe you take a flyer on Ty and see what he can do in the system. But I would definitely take a flyer on both of these, or at least one of them.
Yeah, so either one, I definitely would have some sort of interest in. I think if I had to lean towards one, I think Ty is the more talented player. But as far as a position of need, the Wizards need another big man desperately. They could definitely use it. They just need bodies out there. They don't even have bodies. I think right now, if Gafford gets in foul trouble, if he gets hit with a pump fake and then he sets an illegal screen or he gets winded, he gets tired, then, you're going to have to put Muscala in there. And, you got nights where you're going up against Joel Embiid, Jokic, guys like Valanciunas, even Steven Adams, Anthony Davis put up 55 against us last year, even when we had Porzingis. So right now it's looking rough for us against other bigs who are bigger than Gafford or stronger than Gafford, and that's a lot of bigs in this league. So it's looking like it's going to be a little rough, and Muscala is not going to stop anybody in the post either. Now Garuba he's more of a defensive-minded big, and Gafford is a defensive-minded guy too. But I think Garuba would be very interesting because not only does he guard bigs, but sometimes he can step out there and guard 3s and 4s. So he has a lot of positional versatility and a lot of positional flexibility as a defender. He's not much of a scorer, but he has improved from the 3-point line. So he has tried to improve his game and stretch the floor, like you brought up. Isaiah Stewart has tried to do the same thing too. Not much of a lob threat, solid finisher, bad free throw shooter, but he's a young prospect, a guy that you can get on a two-way contract just to, go out there and set a hard screen, take some fouls, finish around the rim, screen and roll, pick and pop. So I think Garuba would be definitely interesting pickup. Now, just looking at some of his numbers, like you brought up, he had 3 points a game, 4 points a game his first 2 seasons. Just didn't get a lot of playing time with the Rockets. I did think he was a little overdrafted. I thought he was more of a late first rounder. He kind of went in the middle of the first round. Now, last year, looking at some of the numbers, this is from Birddogs NBA on social media. He found some numbers. He was the 6th best isolation. He had the 6th best isolation defensive field goal percentage in the NBA, and he guards primary ball handlers 28.7% of the time. He was also in the 97th percentile in pickpocketing and grades out with an A in the main defensive player impact metrics. That's per B-ball index. So he's a darn good defender. We need some more. We need some more defensive minded guys out there. So, and this is a research and development season. So you kind of just want to see what these young guys can do. So you just take a quick flyer on him. Of course, he's going to be on a cheap contract because he's a young prospect. And, especially with Vucevic not being there, you just need more depth. Gafford, knock on wood, if he has an injury or Muscala has an injury, then at least you have a big that you can lean on that can go out there and rebound. He had a couple good games. He had a couple of solid games where he had, 9.7 rebounds. He's playing in Spain right now. In FIBA, he has 7 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. So he's a good passer as well. Had a couple of double-doubles in the G League games. And then Ty, we both like Ty coming out of Kentucky. He's just a guy that, kind of struggles with explosiveness and getting by guys, but he has a good floater game, first-round pick, 29th pick of the draft. He went crazy in the G League. He had a 53-point game and 10 boards. He had a 30-point game. He averaged 25 points in 8 games in the G League. So, but the only thing is, at the point guard, we have so many guys. You have Tyus, you have DeLon, you have Ryan Rollins. They just picked up Jared Butler on a 2-way contract. So they do have a good amount of guys where, as far as big men, we have no bigs at this point. And right now it's looking like Kuz is going to have to play center sometimes, or he's going to play the 5. Denny might have to play the 5, just in case with foul trouble for Gafford and Muscala. He may be struggling against other bigger big men than him. So it's looking tough for the big man spot, where it's kind of like we're desperate, where it's like, okay, if there's a young prospect out there, you might as well take a flyer on a guy like Usman Garuba.
I mean, like you said, this is a development year, so I have no problem with them seeing that a change of scenery could help Garuba. But I think that would be a solid move for this team because, like you said, defensive minded. The big MO, as far as Wes said was, this is the year for this new front office to find the pieces to kind of implement his system, which is a defensive system. The big knock on him was you didn't see a lot of improvement from the defensive side of this team, and his MO coming out of Denver was defense. And he came into a situation where the roster wasn't guaranteed. You had veterans, you had young guys, and we talked a bunch about this, but now he has the chance to really find the personnel to implement this defensive system. And I think this, Muscala, he ain't stopping nobody. You mentioned Steven Adams. That's a strong cat, man. I've seen videos where that dude was picking dudes up like a grocery bag and just carrying them off the court. So I don't think there's anybody who's really going to match up against Steven Adams. But, you do need a guy who's going to be dominant. And, I get it. When everybody talks about the modern day big, a guy who can step out there like a cat. But look, Andre Drummond keeps getting contracts for a reason. You still need a guy who's going to be a defensive guy in the paint. And I think he could provide that because, like you said, Muscala is more of a stretch 5. He's not really going to defend anybody. It's really questionable what his fit is. So I would definitely welcome Garuba. Now, like you said, look at that point guard. We got a lot of depth right now, but I would still take a flyer on Ty, man. Stash him in the G League. After the deadline, see where we're at, see where Rollins is at. And then see if you can get some playing time because I think he could definitely play at the NBA level. He just needs to be, kind of push along a little bit, get some work in the G League. But I think he'll be all right because I love this game in Kentucky. He just needs the opportunity to kind of develop. And he will have that opportunity. So, like you said, this is a development league, man. Or not league, but year. This is the year for this team to develop, evaluate talent, see what we have. And I think Ty would be a big asset. The same thing, Garuba. Because you mentioned he played in Spain. Maybe he could help us find Zion Exosa. Maybe we could finally find him, man. So we'll see. But I think you definitely got to take a flyer on one of these two, man, because this is the time to find young talent, bring it along, and really see what we got in the long run because it's a rebuild. So if there is any time to really evaluate young talent and see if a change of scenery will help, this is the time. So yeah, I'm definitely signing one of the two of these guys. I think that both can help this team going forward.
Yeah, and then what's their plan with Jared Butler? So that's the only thing, because we would have to. It would the only time I see Ty Washington getting any playing time is after the trade deadline, after they possibly trade DeLon Wright, after they possibly trade Tyus Jones, then Rollins would get more playing time, Jared Butler, Ty. So it's just such a log jam. And then of course, a lot of people who comment on our videos, they want to see Jordan Poole at point guard. So we just have a lot of guards, a lot of point guards where we just don't have any bigs at all. They don't have a young prospect right now that's going to play next year. Vucevic is the young prospect big. Other than that, we have no young prospects at all. Gafford is, he's in year 4, year 5. So, he still is developing, but they don't have any young bigs on the roster that they're really looking to develop at all. So I think Garuba, I'm not the biggest fan of his game, but I like his defensive mindset, his defensive prowess. And he's a darn good passer too. So it's something to definitely think about. But we're going to get to a hot take / question. This one is kind of just a statement. We'll just react to that. But before we do get to that, today's episode is brought to you by Ibotta. Picking up burgers and hot dogs for a summer barbecue, you're already doing it, so why not get cash back for it with Ibotta? Ibotta gives you cash on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods, so you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. Either link your loyalty account or upload your receipt offer, you shop, and get your cash back. It's that easy. The average Ibotta user earns $120 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip. Or you could use your cash back to buy that flight you've been eyeing. That game you're dying to go to, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. You can earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers too when you start with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKED when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and use code LOCKED. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use code LOCKED. All right, so let's get to the hot take here. Let's see here. Let me pull it up here. This one is on YouTube. Let me pull it up. My phone is loading. All right, this one is on YouTube. This one is from Khalid Shabazz 5110 on YouTube. He says, should have kept Porzingis. He spelled it Porzingas. Now we weak at power forward and center.
I mean, I can't disagree with that, man. When we were looking at this offseason, I always thought that KP might have been the candidate to stay. Kyle Kuzma, I thought he was going to leave, but it was known that he liked Washington, so we retained him. But I mean, I often think that what would this team look like if we retained KP and Kuz and Bradley Beal was the guy who got traded, and it would have lined up a Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma, and KP. That's not bad. Now I know that KP's hurt, which is always a a question in everybody's mind. When is he going to get hurt? And we were blessed this year, last year, where we pretty much got a healthy season out of him. But I mean, looking at, we were just talking about Garuba and the fact that we have lack of depth at the front court, man. That is concerning. It really is. I think the big lineup did work last year with Gafford and KP. So should we have retained him? I mean, I'm kind of looking at the hot take. It's a question. But then again, it's kind of the flip side. What if we retained him, then he'd be hurt. So it's one of those things in sports, man. There's a lot of things that would, could have, should have. But I agree. I always thought that we should have thought about retaining him. Now I get it that the front office came in, they had a vision for a rebuild. Where I think we both kind of think it's a competitive rebuild. They're not going to win any championships, but they're going to be fun to watch. You definitely have a lot of talent here, a lot of assets. But it's just one of those things where what if? I mean, I definitely thought that we could have maybe worked out a deal with him, but it just shows that we are in. I'm not really pressing the panic button yet, but we're in bad shape in the front court, man. I mean, if you look at front court, you got Gaff, Muscala. You know what I mean? Like, you got guys who can play the 4 and the 3, but we really don't have a legitimate guy that you can plug in at the 4. You know what I mean? Like, I know Denny and Kuz can play the 4, but they can also play the wing. But we're struggling, man. We got to find some depth. So yeah, you can argue that maybe we should have retained him. But then the salary, so it's a lot of ifs, man. If I was GM, I would have retained him. I would have, Kuzma, if that was an option, I would have definitely retained him also. And I definitely Bradley Beal, I think that was that trade that most of the fan base was looking forward to. But we'll see, man. We're hurting. So yeah, looking at the hot take, I'm with you, Khalid. I think that is a solid hot take, man, because we're hurting center and power forward, man. But I mean, not so much power forward. I'll say that. I think more so center. Power forward, like you said, you got guys who can play the 4. Denny can play the 4. Kuzma, that's his preferred position. So we got some options at the 4, but at center, we're hurting a little bit, man.
Yeah. Wes is he's gonna have to get creative. We're probably gonna have a lot of small ball lineups where, Kuz has played the 5 in the past. Denny could possibly play the 5 a little bit. It wouldn't be ideal at all. Like I brought up some of the bigs we would have to face. Even the Bam Adebayo, a guy like him, Joel Embiid, even Brook Lopez. The Cavaliers, they have 2 big men, Jared Allen, Evan Mobley. So we're definitely going to struggle against other bigs. Even Clint Capella. Just looking at the list, Domantas Sabonis, we're going to struggle against him. Anthony Davis already brought him. Karl Anthony Towns, we're going to struggle against him. Now, you look at the Thunder last year, they didn't have any big men either. That's because Chet Holmgren got hurt. So they were able to weather the storm and make it work, kind of playing a small ball, fast pace. We would just have to really push the pace to kind of mitigate not having a big out there. But a guy like Garuba, I mean, he wouldn't help a lot, but he would just give you extra body out there. But Porzingis, as far as Porzingis, yeah, I think it was time to move on. I think he wanted to. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating. He probably wanted to go to a team that was more competitive, like the Celtics. The Celtics are obviously a championship contender, Eastern Conference Finals contender, basically every year with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, Al Horford, and those guys. So he probably wanted to move on to a more competitive team. But I think it was time to move on. Just the whole rebuild, the whole reset button, I think it was time to move on from Bill, Porzingis. Kuzma, I understand them bringing him back because of the asset value, keeping his contract, training him, trying to get a first-round pick. But I think they did the right thing moving Porzingis. Would I have liked to get a first-round pick? Of course. But, you got Tyus Jones. You can flip him. They got a second-round pick. But, yeah, I think it was time to move on from Porzingis, to move on from the whole solid 3. Just start fresh. Let some young guys play. Yes, we're going to lose a lot of games and we're going to get dominated in the paint. But if you were trying to win, of course, yes, you would try to keep Porzingis and kind of middle build, kind of like what Tommy Shepard was trying to do, and trying to patch things together and keep guys around. And we just, I just didn't think that was the right direction with this roster. I just think you weren't going to win with Porzingis, Kuz, and Bill, or really with Porzingis, Kuz, and another guy. I still think you would barely make the play-in. In the best case scenario, you would make the play-in with Porzingis and Kuz being your main guys. So I do think it was time to move on from Porzingis. But yes, you are correct, Khalid. We are very weak at the center as far as depth, and at the power forward position. You kind of got some depth there. Kuz, Denny, Gallo. You got Gallo. So, I mean, but he's not a great defender either. So, yeah, defense is going to be rough. It's going to be a rough year defensively for the Wizards.
Oh man, best believe center position is weak. I mean, but looking at KP, man, I agree with you, but I would have definitely I know there's a lot of speculation as far as was he willing to exercise his player option, staying in Washington D.C. There was some sources that said yes, some sources that said no. If there was an option to do so, I would have retained him on a player option and then flip him. But it just shows that. But I agree. I kind of look at it both sides, man. I agree that. If you had to move on from KP, get something for him, and we were able to, work a contract where we got ties, where we got a guy who come in and play point guard till the deadline, but you got a guy he can come in and be that floor general that we need. So it's just one of those things, man. It's just because you see I got my KP jersey in the back. It's crazy that we're talking about KP, but is KP a talent that's going to really change the landscape for the Wizards? Nah, I mean, he's just not that talent. No, I like KP. He can definitely play some ball, but he's not a guy who's going to change too much. He's more of a complementary piece. So yeah, we'll see. I think, but me personally, I thought that we maybe had a chance because think about it, man. No other team out there is going to pay him $35 million. I'm just saying, 30 to 35. No other team was willing to do that. So I thought that just based on that, we could have retained him. Him exercising his player option. And maybe flip him at the deadline. So, this is what it could have, should have. It's just one of those things where, we could say whatever. But the biggest thing here is this. we have literally two centers. I mean, and one is really a center who shouldn't play more than 20 minutes a game. No disrespect. You know, I love me some Gaff, man, but he's just not that guy that you could really dependably really put him out there for 25, 30 points a game. Absolutely no. And then Muscala, man, he couldn't defend the park bench. So we got to work something out, man. You know, whether it's Garuba, we've got to really find some depth in center position, man. And that's why I was believing that, you know, the chances of them making a consolidation trade before the regular season, I think is slim. But I'm starting to think you have to, because, you know, you look at several factors, man. Shamet's holding up a spot for either Johnny Davis or Bilal Coulibaly. So Shamet, I never understood what his fit was going forward. And then you can look at several players on his roster. We need another center, you know, and we need to clear up some space for Johnny Davis and Bilal Coulibaly, because year one of a rebuild, man, you know, those two guys aren't getting minutes. That's an issue, you know, and it should not be held up by Landry Shamet. I'm no disrespect to Landry Shamet, man, but there's a reason why he's been on how many teams? You know, he's not a long-term fit, you know. So I think that we need to look at making a move, man. You know, I know that there's a lot of stuff going around, you know, James Harden, the constant soap opera, which is James Harden. And then, you know, Dame Lillard, does he ask, you know, but I think that if there's a chance, look at the market and find a big who can come in and really provide quality minutes behind Gaff, because we're going to need somebody who can come in and maybe play more minutes than Gaff. Because like you said, we know what Gaff can and can't do. Foul trouble is always an issue, always going for those pump fakes. You know, it's just, he has his limitations. So we have to find somebody who's going to be able to provide some quality minutes, because when he goes down, whether it's injury or foul trouble, are we really dependent on Mike Muscala? That's scary to me, man. You know, and like I said, no disrespect, but look, we're here to analyze. And I'm just, Muscala ain't guarding nobody. So we have to figure this thing out before the regular season starts, man, because whether we're rebuilding or competing, you still need depth at a center position, regardless. So, yeah, I definitely think we need to make a consolidation trade, man. That's my humble opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll see how it works out. We'll see what Will Dawkins, if he can work some magic and make some moves to shore up the backcourt, or even next year, then they probably do have to target drafting a big man. We'll see what bigs in the draft. We know a couple years from now, Cooper Flagg and Carlos Boozer's son is coming out. So I'm not too sure what bigs are coming out of the draft. We'll look at that. They may have to target that.
Real quick, keep your eye on Ahmad Bradshaw, man. I'm trying to tell you, he can play some ball, man. He would be the answer. So yeah. I mean, like you said, this draft coming up, man, is a very forward-heavy draft. But I mean, that's why I think that everybody's mind is gonna be on forwards, man. You got to look at a couple key areas, which is center and point guard. So yeah, you're right, man. I mean, there's options going forward. Cooper Flagg, oh my Lord, you put him in a Wizards jersey, man. Look, that's box office, man. You see the videos of him? I mean, he can play some ball, bro.
Right. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. We just want to thank you guys for listening and making Locked On Wizards your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. Make sure you guys hit the notification bell and subscribe on YouTube. Hail to the Wizards. Peace.